Men, what is going on? Cam here, and we are back with another episode of Boy to Man. We have made some changes, we have taken a break, but nonetheless, we are back, and I'm so excited to be dropping a ton of episodes in 2025 for the Boy to Man podcast. And this one is an amazing episode. This guy that you're going to be listening to is someone that I met as a result of pursuing this dream that I had to go and bring entrepreneurs together into one house. And we did just that down in a villa on the beach of Puerto Escondido. And we had the privilege to live in this guy's home. And he has an incredible story, a very unique story, very, very unique story. And it's super cool the way he's been able to build his life. He's got a smoking hot wife, he's got 2 daughters, he surfs every day, he freaking jumps out of planes on a regular basis, he goes base jumping and wingsuiting, and he runs business, he's got real estate. Like, this guy knows how to live, and it's been super inspiring to go and honestly live a bit in his world, because we were literally living on the same property as him in the villa. It was a great episode, and we were just scratching the surface of his story, but it was super inspiring because he literally was at rock bottom at one point, on the verge of suicide. He talks about this crazy story in there. And so, listen up, man. Like, if you're a dude unsure about what you want to do with yourself, like, it only takes one decision. And for Chris, that's what it was. And so he talks about his story from literally going from nothing, depressed, girlfriend leaving him, to all of a sudden making it big, finding out his dream life is going and surfing full time down in Puerto Escondido and making that happen. So we talk about the ins and outs of that and how that evolved him as a man. Stay tuned. This is going to be an amazing episode. And more importantly, we're fucking back, baby. Boy to Man with Chris Carpenter. Let's get into it. I'm very lucky to have Chris on here as the first ever podcast that you're part of. So really appreciate it. And I wouldn't normally just want to jump into the backstory here, but that's one of the things that got me so fascinated. So Chris, I'd love to hear where it all started for you, and again, just who is Chris Carpenter in a way?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the podcast. And my first podcast, and for sure I've been since yesterday thinking about it. Yeah. Kind of nervous because it's something new. I haven't really talked much on camera or never been on a podcast. So it's I'm really into extreme sports, and we'll get into that in a minute. But, jumping off cliffs, flying my wingsuit, hiking up and skiing big mountains, surfing big waves. And the night before, when you're getting ready and just preparing things, you always kind of got the nerves about it. And throughout the day, you're like, okay, I got to get ready because later I'm going to do this. And I kind of had a similar feeling with the podcast today, which is kind of funny.
It's I don't know, maybe it's a spiritual wave for you.
Yeah. So my story, where to begin? I was born in Washington, D.C. My dad is from Utah and my mom is from Germany. And my dad was going to BYU, Brigham Young University, and he got recruited by the State Department to work in Washington, D.C. And so he moved there with my mom. He met her in Germany when he was on a mission, a Mormon mission, and brought her back to the States. They got married in the temple in Utah, moved to Washington, D.C., and they couldn't have children, so they adopted me. I was 3 months old when they adopted me.
Wow.
And right away we moved, within 1 month, to Germany, where it was my dad's first post, where my mom's from. So I lived there for 5 years, learned German.
You learned German?
Yeah, I learned German. That was
Wow.
my first language. Till I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then after that, we just kept moving every 2 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years to different countries. And we moved back to the States for a few years between when I was 6 and 10 to Virginia. That's where my dad was. And then from there, we moved to Yaoundé, Cameroon, which is West Africa.
Wow.
And we lived there for 4 years. And then to Nairobi, Kenya, which is East Africa, and lived there for 4 years also. And that was amazing. And my dad was really into travel, so we traveled all over, like all the countries around there. And then after that, we moved to several other places, and I lived in Australia, and then Mexico, and then I went to tennis academy. I was like a pretty serious tennis player at a young age, trying to become a professional. So I went to tennis academy at 15 years old in Florida for a couple of years, and then I went on tennis scholarship to a school, James Madison University in Virginia. And so I was like super into tennis my whole life. And then I got to college, and it was the first time that I like met girls and parties and alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I kind of quit tennis and just went into full-on party scene for way too hard for like 2 years. And I was like, okay, I'm wasting my life. So I moved out to Utah to settle down. So I finished school in Utah State, up in Logan, Utah. And I got super into skiing and climbing and mountain biking and all the outdoor sports. And I was like, wow, this is what I love. This is freedom. I just love, being out in nature and doing this kind of stuff. But growing up, I'd always heard, you need to go to university, you need to get a good job. And so I did it. I went to university. I got a good job right out of university. I was making really good money. And I was driving back and forth like an hour and a half every day from where I was living to South Salt Lake. And I was working as a web designer in this little cubicle under fluorescent lights. And I would leave in the morning in the dark, and I would get home at night in the dark. And I wasn't doing any of the sports I wanted to. I was just working. And I was so depressed. I was like, there must be more to life than this. I was having really bad health issues. I was like way overweight. My lower back was always giving out of stress. I was $60,000 in credit card debt.
Holy.
Because I was always like spending above my means. Even though I was making good money, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. I was in a relationship with my girlfriend at the time where it was just horrible. We were always fighting about money, and it was just, I was in the low point of my life. And that lasted for a few years. And finally I was at my wit's end. And I was like, there's gotta be more to life than this. Like, I grew up traveling, I saw the whole world, I learned a bunch of different languages. And here I am stuck in this cubicle, working for someone else, just living paycheck to paycheck. Like, I ended up in the hospital several times because of my lower back, like fighting with my girlfriend. It was just really, really bad. So,
and this is how old at this time?
I was like 29, 30. Yeah. And I should have been like doing good because I went to university. I was making really good money. I was driving a nice car. We were like renting a really nice house. Like, on the looks of it, I had this great life. But underneath, I was just hating it because all I wanted to do was ski, mountain bike. I wanted to learn to surf, all these things. In fact, I was in California during this time and with some friends that were surfers, and we were in this coffee shop, and I picked up this magazine, surfer magazine, with Laird Hamilton on the cover in this huge barrel, and something in me clicked, and I was like, I want to do that. And I told my friends, I want to do this. And they laughed. They're like, dude, you're 30 years old. You've never surfed. You will never do that in your life, ever. And they were good surfers. And I was like, oh. So I went back to Utah, back to my cubicle job, fighting with my girlfriend, my back going out every couple of weeks. And yeah, it was really bad. I was like, at one point I was like, man, I was, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'm considering like suicide. I was like, this is so bad. I don't see a way out of this. So I was like, okay, I need to make a change. So I started getting into like reading books. Didn't really read many books before that. I started reading a bunch of books and trying to find mentors and talk to everybody I could and try to find a way out. And I figured, oh, maybe I can figure out a way to make money on the internet and be free. And at that time, it wasn't like it is now. There wasn't remote work and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of scams. So for like the first 6 months, I tried everything. I did these online surveys.
This is like what, the early 2000s at this point?
This is 2002.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so I was doing all these things, trying. I put like another $15,000 on my credit cards to try to like figure out a way to make money to be free. And nothing was working. My family, my mom and dad, my girlfriend, everyone was like, man, would you just stop this ridiculousness and like focus on your job and stop talking about that other stuff and just, you know, pull your shit together? Because I was always like, no, there's got to be more to life than this. This is not it. Like, this sucks. And at the time I was reading 3 different books. One was called Your Money or Your Life, which is like all about changing your relationship with money. And it has 9 steps that you go through. And then another book was an old book from the 1920s called The Master Key System. Something like that, The Master Key System. And
what a title.
That is the book, yeah, you should read it. It's the book that they later created that movie called The Secret from. It's all about manifestation and all that.
Okay.
And then the third book was called Psycho-Cybernetics, which was written in the 90s. And that one's all about changing your identity, like using visualization and things to change your identity to create the life you want. So I was reading these 3 books, trying all these ways to make money on the internet. Nothing was working. It's like, oh my God. And then one day I was building websites for this company, and one of the websites was, so I was trying different things. One was affiliate programs, and I had built my own website on dog training, and I was promoting an ebook. It was like $100 dog training course, and if they went through my website, clicked through my affiliate link, and bought the course, I got like $50.
Wow.
So I built this website. I took months to build it. Yeah. Was doing SEO to try to get it to show up. Wasn't showing up anywhere. It wasn't working. I wasn't making any money. I spent a couple $1,000s doing that. At the same time, I was building websites for other people. I was building websites for this real estate company in Park City, Utah, near where I lived. And they asked me if I could help them run ads for their website that I built for them. So at the time there was this, it was called Overture. And then shortly after that, Google ads came out, like just a couple months. So I was running Google ads for them, bidding on keywords like Park City real estate. Someone would go through the ad, end up at their website, and the guy would sell them like a $5 million Deer Valley home, make $400,000 in commission. And, you know, I was getting nothing. And I saw all this happening. I was like, whoa. So one day I was building that, and I had both windows open on my computer. I had
oh my God.
His website and the ads that I was doing, and I had my dog training thing, and I was doing the affiliate link. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. What if I buy an ad, not buy, but I bid on a keyword that says dog training, and I put my affiliate link directly in the destination URL of the ad. It's called direct linking. And so someone types into Google dog training, how to train my dog, or any of those kind of keywords. My ad pops up, they click on it, they go through my affiliate link straight to the vendor's website. If they buy, I get $50. And I was like, is this even gonna work? Like, I didn't know it was gonna work. I put the link in there, it worked. And I didn't make any sales from that one, but then I was like, oh, this is working. So I started looking, I went on this website called Commission Junction, which is like affiliate network where you can find different affiliate programs to promote. And at the time, eBay was just coming out, and they had this promotion where they would pay you $5 for every person that came through your affiliate link and signed up for free, for a free account.
Wow.
So this was before they had rules about bidding on keywords and all that, on trademarks. So I just bid on the keyword eBay, other keywords like online auctions, sell stuff online, things like that. It was super cheap. It was like 5 cents per click. Every time someone typed in eBay, my ad came up, which was like, sign up for free with eBay. They clicked on that, went through my affiliate link. I got $5.
Wow.
I paid 5 cents, I got $5.
Holy
and like
shit.
95% of the people that came through signed up because there was no barrier to entry. It was free.
Yeah.
So the first month doing that, I made like $30,000 in profits.
Wow. And this is in the early 2000s still.
This was 2000, the end of 2002.
Holy shit.
So then I started looking for all kinds of other affiliate offers. I did the eBay one for like 3 months, and then they caught on. They're like, you can't bid on our trademark. We're going to do that ourselves. But I found all kinds of other offers. That was just a super easy example, but there are other ones too. And so I was doing it for like 3-6 months, making really good money, paid off my credit card debts.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, okay, this is working. And then I was like, I really like this, but it's not passive. There's got to be a way to do less work even than this, because I had to constantly look for new affiliate offers because they would stop working, and you had to, not all of them would stop, but like the eBay example, they would, stop and the rules would change and things. So I was like, what if I write an ebook about what I'm doing and sell the ebook instead? Because I create it once and then I can just sell it forever. So in one weekend, I sat down, I wrote it. It was an 87-page ebook, and I took screenshots of how I did it. And I gave 5 examples, and I said, if you do these 5 examples, there were 5 examples of mine that were working, you will make money. So I showed them 5 examples. And then in the book, I said, at the end, I was like, and to start, become an affiliate of my book. My book was $67. And I give you 75% commission to promote it. And these are the keywords that you should bid on. And these are the ads that you should write. And so like I created this whole affiliate army, basically. And so I write this book. I put it up on this digital marketplace called ClickBank. And I didn't know anything about it. I just stuck it up there. And then I was like, okay, that's it. I want to learn to surf. I want to go learn to surf big barrels. I'm going to go down.
Yeah, you're making some money now. You got some freedom. You paid off the credit card.
I can live wherever I want.
You must have. Did you break up with a girlfriend at this point?
No, we actually went down together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We broke up once we got down. Yeah. So
you got some freedom, money paid off, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to go learn to surf.
Yeah.
So where are you going?
Yeah, so then I had been down to Puerto Escondido years before when my parents were living in Mexico.
Okay.
And we came here once when I was 15, and I almost drowned in Zicatela.
Wow.
Because I went out there on a boogie board on a big day, like super early when people weren't out, and I had this like near drowning experience. And I just remember the huge barrels and mountains of water. And so I had that in my mind, and I was like, that's the place where I'm going to learn to surf.
Where I almost drown, that's where I'm going to go.
And I knew that it was like a world famous place for big barrels, for big waves, like that picture I saw with Laird Hamilton.
Right.
So I took 2 weeks to drive down here. I had a big van, 15-passenger van, put our mountain bikes, all our gear, everything. And we took 2 weeks driving down, hitting spots all the way down. I didn't even check the internet, just took our time, came down, rented a house in Zicatela. It was like 2 days before I even set up the internet. And then I was like, okay, I should, check my email and like get on there. And so check my affiliate campaigns and see how it's going. And I opened up my email and I had like 200 messages from ClickBank saying, sale, $67 sale, $67 sale. Like, what is this? And I was like, oh yeah, my ebook. And then I like go in there and I have all these messages from now these other like famous internet marketers writing me like, dude, the book you wrote is amazing. Like, you have no idea the gold mine you're sitting on. Like, we need to talk and all this stuff. And anyway, long story short about that, in its first year, it sold like 50,000 copies. Then it went on in a couple of years to sold like 100,000 copies. It became the #1 how to make money online book for like 3 or 4 years in a row.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and that completely changed my life, obviously. Then I had freedom to do what I want, and I got super into extreme sports, where I started traveling all over the world. For the last 22 years, I've gone every year to Alaska for heli skiing, where helicopters drop us off on top of mountains, and we ski like big free ride mountain lines. Gone to the places with the biggest waves to surf, and then I got into flying wingsuits, so going a lot to Europe, and so I do like probably 8 big adventure trips a year, and so that's kind of the
That's
story.
the big picture.
Yeah, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out.
100%. We want to dive in. Like, that was so much, and again, like I've heard bits and pieces of that 2 or 3 times now, and I was back locked in. I'm just like, oh my God, this story is just so good. Seriously. But there were some details in there that I hadn't heard the first couple times. And again, given the nature of this podcast, I think it's actually really important. And the part that my mind kept fixating on as you were, going deeper and deeper into your life or closer to the present moment was this transition period where, okay, you had this pretty exotic upbringing where you're over in Europe and Africa and you're traveling around constantly and you're learning new languages and you're getting to experience a bunch of different cultures, and then all of a sudden you find yourself planted in North America again. Not only that, but feeling like you're stuck literally in a cubicle after graduating, etc. And then before that, you're en route to do tennis, but then the partying takes over. So there was all these things that you felt, and then you got sucked back down to this very almost animalistic lifestyle, this this 9 to 5 whatever. And there's a few pieces there. One, the interesting piece of, hey, you were en route to do tennis and play at a very high level, and now the partying thing came in and took over. Again, a lot of these listeners are in and around that period of their life right now where they are making that decision. Do I go down that path of pursuing that best version of myself, or do I get stuck in, or do I indulge, I should say, in something like partying, women, drugs, etc.? Looking back at that specific period where you did, fall in a way to those vices like many, at the time, boys have, what advice would you give to that version of you if he was sitting there standing at this crossroad? Do I go do this tennis thing? Do I go pursue the business? Do I go whatever, that virtuous path, or the path of vice that looks so appealing right now? There's a bunch of hot women running around the campus. There's a bunch of guys saying, come party with us. Like, what advice would you give to that version of yourself now to potentially push them back onto that more virtuous path to continue on? That's
definitely a regret that I have, that I just folded so quickly in my tennis career. And what happened was I ended up at this school, James Madison University, on a tennis scholarship, and unbeknownst to me, it was a real party school. And we didn't know that, So I show up there, and normally your freshman year, you live in the dorms with other freshmen. But since I was on the tennis team, I lived in the house with the tennis players, and they had this big house, and they were all older than me. And my room, right next to my bed, had a kegerator, which is a fridge with the keg in it. So I'd be laying in bed sleeping, and the first night I remember, I'm in bed going to sleep, and a guy crawls over me, and a girl too, and they open the fridge, and I didn't even know what it was, and they're getting beer out, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's a kegerator. Next thing you know, I'm up all night, partying with them. And since I had focused so much growing up on tennis, and I no girls and never any drugs or alcohol, I just completely kind of went crazy when I went to college. And I took the easy way out because, it was so easy to just party. And so, that is a regret in one sense. If I could go back and tell myself, I would tell first of all, I would tell myself that when I was younger to have loosened up a little and I feel like I was way too focused on tennis. Like that's all I did. Like, but that's part of where I grew up too. Like growing up in Cameroon and Kenya, there wasn't all that much to do. I played tennis all day, every day. And so I was like so focused into that. But yeah, I would tell myself to just loosen up, and because part of it too is I was so focused on tennis that, you know, I didn't do a lot of experiences that you could do when you're that age, when you're like 14, 15, 16, because I was just like, you know, it's all about tennis. So maybe to have, you know, experienced a little more then. And then when I showed up at college, like all my friends at college, they had already experienced drinking and things before. So for them, it wasn't this big novelty. And to me, I would just like went crazy, like, you know? And so, yeah, that was totally 2 wasted years of my life, you know, that if I could do it again, I probably would do it a little bit differently. But yeah, as far as advice to others, I mean, this is kind of contradicting, but what I really believe is that life is about experiences. And like, you know, it's not about how much money you can make and like all those kind of things, but it's about your relationships and being in awe of this beautiful world and just waking up every day excited to go do amazing stuff and that kind of thing. And so, you know, I would tell my earlier self to be and to have as many experiences as you can. Because for example, like I was invited to go like, you know, take a year off before university and go travel. And instead I was like, no, I'm going to focus on tennis and all that. Like, man, when you're young, go travel, do that stuff. You have time later to work and make money and all that. I feel like we put too much pressure on youths to be like, hey, you got to
figure it out.
You got to go to the university. You got to get a 9-to-5 job. You got to, you know, status quo, 9 to 5 till 65. And I think that's like a little bit backwards. I think,
100%.
Yeah, especially these days, there's easier ways and better ways to do it. So I think you can focus more on having nice life experiences and experiencing this world, and then worry about making money a bit later in later stages of your life. So talking to the younger viewers, I would say don't stress so much if you're in your early 20s or whatever, that like, oh, I got this choice. I can either go on a year trip with my bros and travel all over and do these amazing adventures, or I can get this amazing internet startup job. I would say go for the experiences. You're still going to have time.
Totally.
I don't know if you agree with that, but
I do in a certain light, in the sense of the world, especially heading into the world that we're in. Like, it might have been slightly different for where you're at, where it's like, hey, you know, the ability to work online wasn't as prominent. You know, it was very early adopter. Like in 2002, going and making money on the internet was like one of the craziest ideas out there. But now it's such a natural thing that you can go and do that experience and still find opportunities to potentially. But I still, even if the internet wasn't there, I would still agree with you in the sense that I talk to a lot of guys in their 20s or just about to hit their 20s, and a lot of them have this pressure. A lot of it is on themselves, especially if they're like bound to be a high performer, or they've displayed tendency of already being a high performer in sports or in academics or whatever it is. They want to know what that thing is that they're going to go and do. And then there's also the surroundings that they're in, where they're just like, hey, they see, because you're so accessible to guys 10, 20, 30 years ahead of you. And so you feel like, okay, they've already figured it out, hence I need to figure it out, because you're so competitive as a guy. Yeah. And I think it's hurting a lot of men in their ability to express and tap into what is possible for themselves, because if you just try to jump on the first thing that comes into your awareness as the thing that I'm going to go and do, right? It's like, I'm going to stick to this, I'm going to be the best at it, whatever. You have no idea what else is out there for you. And so something like traveling, especially, you brought up a great example, going and traveling with 3 to 5 of your buddies across North America, the world, wherever it is, even just going and leaving your hometown together, or leaving the university town that you're in, that in and of itself will just open up so many doors that you couldn't even imagine possible. You might not even like see or experience something in that place that would like show you what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but it's going to start shifting how you think. And the one thing I've recognized, like, I left my hometown when I was 17 years old, and I always had this craving to just leave completely and just go somewhere else, because I just felt like what was being shown to me was so limited, and I knew what I was seeing in my awareness wasn't going to be it. And lo and behold, like, the more I traveled around, the more closer I got to the very thing that I knew I wanted to do for a significant period of time, which is now Above Men and helping young men realize their potential. But that only came through going out and traveling. Like, it really, because again, when you start as a child, a baby, like, your scope on the world is a speck. And then as a boy, okay, it's maybe a little bit bigger, but it's bigger and really crude. You know, it's very like simple equations we make. Like, you know, one of them would be, if a girl likes you, or if you like a girl, she must like you because you like her. Like, we just have very crude equations in our head. And then as we age with wisdom, we get more granular in terms of how we see the world and also what's possible because we expand it. But I only think that comes down with things like traveling, right? And so I would totally agree with you on that, in the sense of in your 20s, and this is what guys like Gary Vee, like, something, his advice always stuck with me is, dude, go and fuck up for all your 20s and you still have 50, 60 years in the bank.
Yeah.
But what comes with that is so many at-bats to figuring out what you do and don't want, and so many skills that you'll acquire through going around, trying shit, failing, succeeding, that then you jump into what really is the bigger part of life, with now a core foundation on like knowing more about the world, knowing what you do and don't like, and you can now make a more educated guess on this is the thing, or maybe you just like find it. Like, for me, I found it. Like, it's just fully inside of me that like, this is what I want to do. But that only came from trying a bunch of different shit, trying to, you know, travel around, meet a bunch of different people, and through that, it just digging and boom, you hit it.
Yeah.
But if I just went to university, got the job, stayed at the job, or even like, you know, went to university, tried one business, succeeded at that business, and only stayed in that business, like my lane of what's possible would be so narrow. So I'm glad I, you know, in a lot of ways failed along the way, because it allowed me to keep bouncing around to figure out the thing that, okay, now I got the skill sets and the awareness of the world, and I feel like I'm very wise for my age because of that. So I totally agree in a lot of ways, and just to, you know, expand on those points, because like you said, it's a bit contradictory in that sense, but I would agree with you. But one of those things is like the partying piece. Like, I think partying has a law of diminishing returns, because what partying does is like, you get to connect with people, you get to have experiences, but at a certain point, partying is the same experience at a certain point, you know? Like, for me, I had a similar thing. Like, I went to college, did the partying for like a year, then realized, I'm like, wait, we're doing the exact same shit over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing comes from it. We just do more of the same shit.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it seems like our health's deteriorating. You know, my brain's fuzzy in the morning. I feel like shit. So it's like, wait, this isn't adding up, you know? Like, I'm all about experiences, but this isn't adding up. So I think
one good thing I got out of it is I got it out of my system.
Yes.
I like partied so hard for 2 years that after that I became more responsible. I got a respectable job and like good car and like did all those kind of things, and then, you know, was unhappy.
100%. And so that brings me to that next point. Like, the two major pieces that I took from your early stage before you started the online, which I would say were catalysts for you looking for this online, was the point where you first got into college and went on to your party hiatus, and then you left, you got the job, you're in the cubicle now, you're doing the cubicle thing for 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
And now you're like, dude, how is this all life has to offer? And I really think way too many men are having that exact same conversation with themselves. And the unfortunate part is they're much older than you were at that time. luckily you were only 29 when you made that realization and actually did something about it. But unfortunately, there's guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are still having those conversations with themselves. But again, our conversations, the leaders of tomorrow with the young guys that are in their 20s and maybe they have gone into a job and they're having that exact conversation. It's like, is this it? Am I just going to go to a cubicle and come home and go to a cubicle and come home and maybe, you know, buy this and buy that, but is this it? So for you, like, it sounded like the catalyst was some major, almost breaking points for you, but like,
Yeah.
what was that breaking point for you that made you take that change, and what belief did you have to overcome to actually take the action? Because if you were like committed to this identity of like being this individual, then it's so hard to break out of that. And I think that's why a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
It's because they tell the world and everyone, their family, their friends are like, hey, I'm this guy, I'm the accountant, I'm the et cetera. And then they commit to that. And they're so afraid to like break out of that mold. But what was the catalyst for you? And then what beliefs did you have to overcome to like have almost the courage to go and do it?
Yeah. Well, the catalyst is that I was at the lowest point in my life and I was like, I need to make a change, because if I keep doing this, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. I like seriously was considering ending it. It was like so bad. Like, and yeah, it was really hard because I would share my ideas, because I had all these different funny ideas. Like one idea was I wanted to get a big bus and travel all over with the bus and like sell stuff that I made. And so like I was telling my parents and friends like my ideas, and they were like, what? That just sounds ridiculous. Like, how are you you're not gonna be able to, that's not gonna work. And and I knew deep down too, I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like such a good plan. Like I haven't, you know, this is before I didn't have any money. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was in credit card debt. And I was like, man, how am I gonna do that? That's not gonna pay the bills. So, you know, then I started like reading those books and working on myself and doing the exercises in the books and things. That Your Money or Your Life has 9 steps, which are exercises that you do. And then the Psycho-Cybernetics also has exercises. And basically you visualize what your ideal life would look like, you know? Not only on a material kind of thing and what you would be, do, and have, but also the kind of impact you would like to have one day in the world. So like big vision kind of thinking. And so you like plan it all out so you get a clear vision on it, and then you're like thinking about it every day. And at the same time, I was doing these steps of trying to change my relationship with money and figuring out what my limiting beliefs were as far as related to money and to all kinds of things. And that's from these books that I was doing these exercises. And yeah, the whole time my parents were just like, as I was like focusing more and more on this, parents and friends and girlfriends were like, you know, you're wasting your time. And that's where the thing comes in, where you just have to, just like surfing big waves. There's a point when you're out there and the wave comes to you and you're paddling for it and it's huge. And you start going and you look over the edge and you're like, oh, there's no way. And you pull back. At some point, you just have to throw yourself over the ledge. Same with flying a wingsuit off a cliff. You're standing at the edge. I'm super afraid of
that's
heights,
crazy.
by the way. Yeah, that's part of the reason I got into all the altitude sports, is because I was like, you know, my friends are doing it, other people are doing it. I need to get over it. But to this day, when I am on the edge of a cliff, they're all like standing on the edge, looking over. I'm like in the back, getting my stuff ready. And when it's time to go, I walk up, take one look, and like, all right, let's do this. And I go without thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like you have to just be like, look, other people have done it. If someone else can do it, I can do it. And I'm just going to take the risk and go for it. And with most things, you know, jumping off a cliff with a wingsuit is a little different, but with most things, it's okay to fail, you know? You can fail a lot of times, and that's how you learn too. So don't be afraid to just do it. And so basically, I remember back then when I was like going for it and was like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna I started doing all the affiliate program stuff. I quit my job. I quit right away, even before I paid off all my bills. Like as soon as I saw it was working, I was like, okay, that's
Done.
it.
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
all in. And that took a lot of guts, and my family was like, no.
Oh.
And it wasn't like instant. Like it wasn't like, because I had issues in the beginning, like to make it work, I needed a lot of credit to be able to pay for the, for the ads and all that. And so there was a lot of hiccups. And so it wasn't just smooth sailing. So I would like talk to my family and friends and telling them, they're like, why don't you just go back to your job? Like, stop, trying this foolishness. Now it doesn't sound that foolish, but back then it was like nobody was, it was like crazy. So, yeah, so just to take the risk and overcome that fear, know that other people have done it. And like you said, you learn a lot from failures, and to not be afraid to try something. And so, yeah, I just went for it. I did a lot of these different kind of exercises about my limiting beliefs. I had a lot of limiting beliefs about money. Like I always grew up thinking things like rich people got rich at the expense of others. Money is a necessary evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like all those kind of things. Like I heard it growing up all the time. And so I had to overcome those kind of things. And I remember I did the exercises where like I answered these questions. I came up with a huge list of limiting beliefs. And then I did these affirmations to like get rid of these limiting beliefs. And just by putting them out in the open, things started to change for me. Like one example from that book, Your Money or Your Life, it has you get really clear on what you spend your money on. So you like, at that time, you carry around a little notebook, and anytime you buy something, you would write down, okay, I bought a pack of gum, I bought some shoes, I bought whatever, and you would write it down in your little notepad, what it was, how much it was, and anytime you got money in from work, someone gave you money, you found money, whatever, you would write down the income. And then every week at the end, you would tally it all up and make like a little spreadsheet, and you would see where your money was going. Now they have apps to do all this. It's super easy. And then you could look and you would get really clear, and then you would put next to that in a category. Like one other part of this is figuring out, like I said before, like your vision. What's your ideal life? What do you want to be, do, or have? And at the time I was like, I want to travel. I want to do adventure sports. I want to spend time with family and friends. I want to be free. I want to have freedom. The 4 W's. You know what those are?
No.
Wine, women, weed, and waves. No, just kidding. No, it's to be able to do what you want, when you want, where you want, and with whomever you want.
Wow.
That's true freedom. That to me is wealth. It's not going after trying to make $1 million, some arbitrary number, because when you get there, you're going to want 10 million and all that. It's the reason behind that. Why do you want that money in the first place? And usually it comes down to you want freedom to be able to do what you want, when you want, where you want, and with whom you want. Like that's ultimate freedom. To me, that's wealth.
All that was absolute gold, because again, if you're sitting here in your 20s thinking like, what is the first step I need to take? Like what I'm hearing from this, if you, the listener, aren't hearing this, it's I made a bet on myself. And one of the things that I keep seeing with 20-something-year-olds is I'm going to stay in the safe path. And first, I met 20-something-year-olds that are doing like the business world, like they're running a business, they're making good money, but it's still at a certain level, it's the safe path relative to what they could be doing for their potential. It's not you versus the average, it's you versus you. And what I see is they're not willing to go all in on themselves. And what I was hearing from that is like, you at a certain point is like, either life's going to take me or I'm going to take life.
Yeah,
and
I think that's the missing link is the personal development.
Yeah.
Where you decide that I'm going to try to become the best version of myself.
Yeah.
That's what happened then. That's what was the whole changing point for me when I was like, I was never into self-development before that. I wasn't like, but then I started reading these books and getting into this stuff. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try to become the best version of myself. And when I started doing that, then everything started to fall into place. My relationship with money, my relationship with people around me. I met the woman of my dreams. We've been married for over 20 years now, you know, and everything just fell into place.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like that was a missing link. And that was kind of the catalyst for me, was personal development. There's a great quote, I'm not going to be able to think of it exactly right now, but it's something like, your level of success, maybe you remember it better than me, will never
outperform the level
of your personal development. Yeah, exactly. And so
it's such a good quote.
Yeah, and that in my life, I saw that. And even to this day, like, things will be going really well, and then I'll like kind of fall off the bandwagon where I'll like, you know, I won't be working on myself for maybe a few months. I'll get lazy and things. And then I'll start to notice that things start to like crumble around me, like maybe my business, my relationships, my health. And then I'm like, oh shit, go back to my books, go back to my practice. And, you know, there's a few things, like I'm sure you've heard, it's popular now, but I was doing that before it had a name, monk mode.
Yeah.
And that's where you go and, I mean, you don't have to disappear, but basically you focus on yourself. These days, the important thing is to do like a dopamine detox. There's so much dopamine from, you know, scrolling all the time and instant gratification and all those kind of things. So to go, you know, get back to nature, get back to reading books, don't use your phone so much. Do things like go to bed early, wake up early, work in like focused, deep work sessions. Like I work 4 to 6 hours a day, but 4 to 5 of those hours, I'm super focused. And then I'll spend 1 hour, you know, sending messages, doing emails and things like that. And then, you know, like doing things in moderation. So maybe you go for 3 months where you don't drink, you eat really well, you sleep well, you're reading books and you're like working on yourself, trying to become the best version of yourself. And then you take maybe a month off where you're like, okay, I'm gonna spend a little more time, you know, doing some parties and maybe not waking up so early. And because what I found is if I tried to do it, like I've done it, you know, kind of monk mode thing for a whole year straight. And then you kind of get burned out too. And then if you do it the other way, where you're just like kind of in party mode, then your life is falling apart. So finding a balance there between those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, I'm just rambling now, but I think personal development and working on yourself, especially for telling this to a 20-year-old. Now, you asked me earlier, what would you have told yourself back then? That's what I would have told myself back in my 20s, was like, when I was in college and doing the whole party thing, is like, you know what? The best thing you can do with your life is to try to figure out how to become the best version of yourself and focus on that, because then everything is going to fall into place and you can not only have everything for yourself, but you can do a lot better for the people around you and the world around you as well, whatever your mission might be, you know?
100%. I literally couldn't agree more with that. It's the core premise of what Above Men's trying to solve for, is helping men self-actualize, step into that best, most dominant version of themselves.
You say it so well. Yeah.
Right? And I want to paint a bit of a path for anyone that's like just fully bought into what you just said, because it's a very convincing argument, right? Especially like if we were to take you as a case study. Hey, you know, went down this path, you're stuck in this job, you know, fighting with your girlfriend, you know, borderline suicidal, like not a great relationship with anyone around you, you know, credit card debt, like everything's just piling up. And then the moment you flip the script and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take the power into my hands and see how can I craft my life? Yeah. Life has been crafting my life right now, right? The external world, like how can I take that back and start doing that? So, and then when you do, everything, and we've talked about that, and all of a sudden, you know, things are starting to flip. So It's a very convincing case as to why you should. How do you do it? Well, and I'd be interested to see, what those first steps are for you. But for me, in Above Men, like there's really 4 main levels, right? And I always think and this is where my story comes in, right? I went from 150 pounds to 200 pounds, where I was super shy, super skinny, constantly getting sick. And then as soon as I started to develop a physique, started to become more confident, started to figure my mindset out, et cetera. But there was the catalyst of getting into the gym, working on my body. So the way I see it is like, step 1 is you got to get the body locked in, right? When you start going to the gym, when you start eating good food, when you start prioritizing sleep, the foundation, the very thing, the vehicle, the vessel that allows you to just experience life, go to the job, not go to the job, whatever, that becomes better. And not only that, you prove to yourself one very important thing. I can do something significant. That when I can take a body that is over here, out of shape, not whether you're skinny or overweight, it's out of shape relative to what it's capable of.
What it could be.
When I take that and I can transform it through my own decision making and my own action taking and my discipline, that gives you a level of confidence that nothing can buy.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter about any business that you create. And again, it's proven in the world. There's more millionaires than there are people with 6-packs. Why? Because there's a certain level of commitment and consistency and dedication that it takes to get there. And so I think level 1, and the best part is it's pretty much free, right? You can argue you need the gym membership, eat healthy. It's pretty much free, right? But level 1 is like, dude, just go get fit. Take control of your body. Don't let the food control you, right? Stop letting at night, you eating the thing that you shouldn't eat. Stop, being lazy, letting that meeting run over and not moving the body. Like, just get in control of your actual body. That's step 1. Step 2, mindset. Step 3, and we'll go on. But if I were to just start to paint a path for people, and I want to hear what yours is as well, just get control of your body. Because I think that's one of the fastest ways that you can feel that sense of development towards becoming that best version of yourself. What would you add to that?
No, I agree. And I would just say that definitely what you said, and is, once you get control of your health and fitness, things start to lock into place, and it's a holistic kind of thing. Like, they all work together. So maybe you have one piece of the puzzle, but you're missing the other 3, or you have 3 and you're missing 1. And so starting somewhere like the body is a great place, because like you said, once you are able to control that and then you make that change, it's basically a lifestyle change that you make. Because a lot of people with dieting and all that, they figure it all wrong. Like, they're always like, how do you get a body like that? Like, do you work out, or what is it? Well, like, can I know your workout plan or whatever? And it's not that. It's like the whole lifestyle that you do, It's like the way you eat and recover and movement and all those things. And so even with the body is a holistic thing, but with everything we're talking about, it's a holistic thing. So you got the body, the mind, what are your other ones?
Mine is mind, body, heart, and soul. So emotion and spirit, basically, right?
Yeah.
And I think those other 2, they really only come as a man. I think women experience life differently, especially how they almost feel through life, where men think through life in a lot of ways. And if that's the case, like the heart and the soul, they typically come later down the road when you've started to conquer the mind and the body, right? Because the body is the first thing that you conquer, but then to stay consistent, you need the mind. And then once you're consistent and you can feel that you're capable of a lot more, your heart starts to open up of, oh my God, there's more to life. Like, I can actually, and sorry, it's the soul first. There's more to life. What else can I do? If I can conquer my body, what else can I conquer? And that's where those soul desires start to come up. And a lot of the time at first, they're societal desires. Make more money, get the job, get the certain recognition. But at a certain point, the soul will bleed through if you let it, if you listen to it close enough, where it's like, there's a soul desire inside of us that when we do it, we feel the most aligned, most energized, and inspired to continue to do that thing.
Yeah.
Right? But it's only once we've conquered the body and mind that it allows us to open up what's possible. Otherwise, if you say, hey, I want to go do this thing, but if your mind's a rut and you don't have a body that you have confidence in because it's controlling you, you're not controlling it, those soul desires might be there, but you have no belief that you can go and take action on it.
Right.
Right? And so when people say, oh, you'll never do that, you're gonna be like, oh shit, you know what, I can. You know, look at my body. Oh, look at my mind. Like I'm not in control here.
Right.
So I think you need the soul and then the heart, because once you start to see what else is out there, then you're like, oh my God, I can actually help others, right? And through this vehicle, this soul desire that I have, I'm actually gonna be able to help others. And this is where you go from boy to man. You know, people ask me like, what's actually the characteristics of a boy versus a man? One of the core maxims, I would say, that allows you to really have confidence in yourself that you're operating through man psychology versus boy psychology is, are you looking at the world through the lens of what can I take from it? Or are you looking at the world at what can I give to it?
Yeah.
And the man is always going to ask, what can I give to it? Not what can I take? Because if you think about it, the boy was nurtured through the mom, right? And the mom would constantly give, and you would never have to take, or you would never have to do anything in return.
Yeah, you just take.
Right? So it makes sense that the boy, that's how the boy thinks. But then when the man steps in, it's like, dude, if you want to have anything in this world, you have to give before you get anything.
Yeah.
And so I think the heart becomes the last piece of that, because the heart really allows you to do it not out of a logical, okay, I know if I give this, I'm going to get this, that transactional, but that love. Like when you do it through love, where it's like, I'm just doing this, and if you don't give me anything back to it, world, human, community, whatever, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it of service because of a soul desire that I have. So yeah, those are
I like
kind of the
how
four.
you worded all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've finally, in my stage of life now, I've come around to that. Like before, it was definitely me,
Yep.
experience this
Yep.
and that. And then you kind of hit a fulfillment curve, not only of, getting material stuff, but also of experiences and things. And then now in this stage of my life, it is more about giving back and sharing and teaching and being a mentor, not just with my family and friends, but with other people around me. And that's where you keep getting fulfillment. Because in the beginning, you brought this up earlier, you got your different needs. And so you try to get those needs taken care of, and then you start making money, and then you're like, okay, now I'm going to get a nicer car, a bigger house, I'm going to go on a vacation, and all these kind of things, right? And then you keep doing those things, but you stop getting fulfillment out of them. Like you get an even nicer car, and you're like, okay, that lasted like 5 minutes. Like now I got a ding in it, and I got to go pay a bunch of money to fix it. And you're like, ugh. And so the fulfillment curve, you hit a part in the curve there where you get no more fulfillment. But now what I'm finding is, and the same thing with the experiences, after you start doing so many different things, it's just like, you're not feeling that much more fulfillment. But as you spend time with people like you're doing, and I help people as well, because everyone that I'm around, I try to help them get to kind of where I've been able to get to live their dream lifestyle. And so, and you've seen this, I'm sure, with me and all the people around, that when I'm talking with them and asking them questions about what's going on, they're telling me about their lives and their businesses and all that. And then I ask them basically like, okay, well, if money wasn't an issue and you had, all the money in the world and it wasn't an issue, like what would you do? And then they'll tell me, and then we'll talk about it and be like, a lot of times people will figure out that, hey, wait a minute, I don't need to make a whole ton of money to do that. Like I can already figure out to do it. And this day and age, we live in the most amazing time with the internet and social media, and now with AI and all these things, that it's so much faster to like create your ideal lifestyle and to bring your own like vision and mission out there, and to share with people.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I think I call it the modern day mismatch in the sense of we're naturally worse off than we were 20,000 years ago, in the sense that if you were just to exist and let life take you, you're probably going to be in a worse position because of how much distractions there are and shitty food there is, and opportunities to get stuck into a cubicle. There's so many opportunities, and if you take the path of least resistance, which is go to school, get a job, and just stay there, I bet you're going to have a way worse life than if you're a hunter going and hunting your food every day, truthfully.
Being out in nature. And,
But I say on the flip of that, we are in the best position to live the best lives ever because of the tools that are available to us if we go out and use them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge distinction, because I was actually just listening to this on the way back, and how my parents' generation and kind of your generation actually is like looking down on my generation and even the younger generations, and with pessimism and almost like shame, where it's like, oh, look at these kids, like they're addicted to their phones and and they're all these vices, vaping, smoking weed, video games, porn, OnlyFans, And it's like that. Those are all possible because of the amazing tools we have available to us. Now it's about having real leaders that are going to be willing to step up first and foremost and break out of that mold themselves, but then show the blueprint on how to navigate these tools and actually use them for good, instead of the vices that they a lot of the time are, like the social media, the whatever. And
it's almost like a form of slavery.
It is.
Because you get stuck in that, and then it's really hard to get out, and you don't even know that there's a better thing out there.
100% it is. 100% it is. And it's the interesting thing is I really don't. When I was younger and I first started to look at these tools, I thought there was a lot of malicious intent behind them. And I actually just realized like it's all self-propagated. Like humans have just evolved to make everyone's life easier and better and faster and But by doing that, we've like we've imposed slavery onto ourselves. And again, I really, the more I find or learn about the world, it's not actually a malicious intent. A lot of ways, like the Facebooks of the world.
They didn't plan that to happen like that. It just came like
100%. That. But what I do think is that by default, there's been these two paths. Like at any point, like there was these two paths. You could go to tennis or you could go and party, right? Mm-hmm. And at any point, there's these two paths that come from a new solution. And again, Facebook, social media, et cetera, there's these two paths, the path of virtue, the path of vice. And at any point you have a choice to choose, it's just really, really easy to choose these paths more and more and more often. So, which then leads to the self-slavery thing. So I agree. I think the last part of that I want to touch on, because I'm cognizant of time, because I have a list of stuff. We haven't even scratched, I think, a lot of stuff, because a few things that are coming up, but it's like I'm debating where I want to take this. Is like the family life. You seem like you have an amazing relationship with your wife. You have kids. You still are in business very much so, and doing amazing things in business. And so there's so many things that you're still able to do, even though that you've chosen, hey, I'm maybe not going to be the hustle and grind guy that works 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, like nonstop, but you're still able to accomplish all these things. But there was clearly a decision at some point in your career. They're like, I'm not going to be the Silicon Valley tech startup guy that loses all my hair by the time I'm like 32.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to value experiences. Like, was there a specific time that you remember like making that decision? You're like, you know what? I see all the money, because you were clearly making a ton of money.
That decision I have to make almost daily. I have friends in that are always like, hey, let's do this startup together. Let's do this and that.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious decision to not go after, like you said, the extra zero to make, more money, because I realized that for me, it's all about living a lifestyle of freedom, and if I, part of me, it sometimes gets like, because I have a friend who has this startup idea, I can be a unicorn and we can make $1 billion on this. Part of me wants to do the challenge.
Yeah.
But I know that if I do, I'm going to be working the 16-hour days. And I've done a little bit of that here and there. And yeah, I don't want to sacrifice my family and my freedom. And yeah, we just have such an amazing relationship. My day looks like, I wake up early. My wife and I surf together almost every day. Then we have breakfast, take our daughter to school.
Yeah.
Then I go to my office and work. Then I'll work like, 4 to 6 hours without interruptions. And then in the afternoon, we'll play tennis or surf, or I'll go biking with my daughter. Then we make dinner together. And that's when we're at our home base here. We also travel around. We have a few places around, and we go to my different favorite adventures and travel around. But that's kind of our schedule at home. If I went after the unicorn and try to make $1 billion, which is tempting at times because it's a challenge and you want to do it. And
the masculine urge is there.
Yeah. And I feel like I could probably do it. Like, there's a couple ideas, especially with AI now. I'm like, man, I wonder if I could even, with just 3 of us, we could do it.
Yeah.
But it would mean sacrificing everything else, health, relationships, and like I did before. So yeah, I made a conscious decision, and I keep making that decision. And now I found ways to find a balance.
Right. The one thing, maybe I'll probe on that just slightly, is what is the thing you're continuously saying yes to? Because before you were, had the family, and if I have my timeline right, even before you met your wife, you still sounded like we're starting to make that decision of okay, I have all this money and I'm making this money and I'm bestseller on this book, and you did the software and you're making the money, but you still made the decision of okay, I'm going to keep it at a certain level and enjoy this life. What was the thing that was allowing you to keep making that decision on the other side?
Yeah, well, part of that was that I was so into, and I still am, my extreme sports.
Right.
My close group of friends, they're professional athletes. They're skydivers, wingsuit, base jumpers. They're Red Bull athletes, GoPro athletes. And so I travel around with them a lot. And, to be able to do that consistently and stuff, you got to have a level of freedom.
Totally.
So that was kind of the thing that kept me too, is because I was so into that.
Yeah.
And still now to this day, depending the conditions anywhere in the world, there's really good snow or there's, some really perfect waves or something, and they'll be like, hey, you got to come. Or now there's this skydiving thing going on in California, and they're like, oh, we're all going to be there, you got to come. So being able to have that freedom to so it comes back to freedom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, freedom. And now looking back, given that you've had freedom for 20 plus years now, in not just hey, I work this job and I have no debt, I have my mortgage paid off, you have real freedom.
Yeah.
Would you go back and change it for being able to have $1 billion?
No, not at all. And in fact, I feel like I have real freedom, but at the same time, I've kind of made a few mistakes. For example, I started making a bunch of money and I started acquiring assets. So right now I have no liabilities. I have no debt, nothing like that, but I have a bunch of assets. I have real estate all over the place. And I thought, wow, this is a great way to make passive income.
Right.
Because I've got these places that we go and stay at, but we also rent them out on Airbnb and they make money and all that. But there's nothing passive about it. There's no such thing as passive income, really. There's always something. If it's not on the back of your mind, they're calling you and saying, hey, there's a problem at this property. You need to do this and you need to do that. So I was just talking with my wife the other day. Hey, what if we just sell everything, and we'll have multiple, 8 figures, and then we don't have to even deal with all those things. Compared to my previous life, it's not a problem, doing, an hour here and there dealing with those things, but it's still not pure freedom. So that's kind of what I'm working now on. My latest thing is simplifying a little. I want to simplify. I accumulated a lot of stuff. Like I was always in the wealth building stage, even though I could have done more and gone after more. I limited it, but it was still wealth building. I was still making money and putting that into something that made more money and all that. And now I want to focus more on giving back, helping, I have this other vision. And at the same time, simplifying and living a little less cluttered life. Because it's great having these different places and being able to show up and go skiing here. And then like recently I went, it's the summer here, but it was winter in Argentina. I just showed up and went skiing there, and to be able to have your home bases and do all that kind of stuff. But it still takes mental energy to keep track of that and to deal with the property manager and the different bank accounts and all those things. And whereas I could simplify it all even more and then be even more free.
100%. No, I love it. But nonetheless, what I'm hearing is like you, by living the life you did, right? Not going, you could have tried to push harder and make even more money, but you're like, you know what? This is great, and I'm going to use this to actually have real freedom and not be caught up in the money-making hamster wheel. There's no regrets, and you wouldn't go back and trade your freedom for $1 billion, because again, it's not the money that actually matters, right? So.
If I could have my previous life of working like that and have $1 billion, like no way. Like, the money is, that's the thing. Like so many people have a goal, and so did I. Like before, I had a goal. It was always like, I'm going to make $3 million and then I'm going to retire, whatever that is. But I would never take the money over the lifestyle.
So to wrap it up, one book that you would give your 20-year-old version of you?
Die with Zero.
Die with Zero.
I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
Is that right?
Die with Zero.
Close enough. You can find it.
And why that book?
Do a search.
Why is that so important?
Well, it kind of sums all this stuff up. But the thing I like about the Die with Zero book is it talks all about that. There's different stages of your life, and that when you're in those different stages, you should focus on them and don't worry so much about making a bunch of money to have for your retirement. So when you're in your 20s, focus on being in your 20s and having experiences and things that you can only do when you're in your 20s. Because as you get older and things, you're going to make a lot more money and you're going to have more money, but you're going to have less time. You're going to have a family, you're going to have more responsibilities, and you're going to have less health. So like, why work until you're 65 to retire and then get into skiing or whatever, mountain biking, whatever you want to do? You're going to have 5 years, and your body's not even going to be that good to do those things. So like, think of the different stages of your life and then focus on those things then. So when you're in your 20s, focus on certain experiences, doing things that you can do then. Same with 30s. And then when you're in your 40s, you can focus more on wealth creation. You don't have to do that when you're in your 20s. You got time.
Right.
The book explains it much better than I am right now, but I just read that book a couple months ago. So maybe it isn't the best book for when I was 20s, but it just like validated everything to me. I was reading that book and I was like, oh yeah, this is how I'm living now, and I agree with everything in this book, So yeah, that's a good one.
Amazing. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being. Thanks for coming on as the very first podcast you're coming on, and it was an incredible episode. And I think there's a lot of takeaways here for young guys, even actually older guys as well. And just having that balanced life, and that the money isn't the only thing we need to focus on, and we can actually step away from work. So it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.